Thanks again, everybody, for joining us for another exciting episode of Creative Chat. Join us as Peter and Allison pick up where they left off in the after show convo.
Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
wearehistorically.com, Conscious Brand Apparel, and
raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
After show convo.
Let's do it. Oh, Allison, thank you for sticking around. Now, when we left off, you were talking about this amazing exercise that to me goes to just show the importance of energy and the power of positivity. And when you're talking someone up, when you're really amplifying their dreams and this kind of like, again, these like highest aspirations of our heart that we really cling on to the most, how has that kind of impacted your just perspective on how we utilize speech? I mean, and sound again, and just in terms of everyday life.
Call it putting your order in to the universe. So to place an order in with the universe versus Amazon. We just ask and it's going to be delivered in prime timing, right?
Ooh, plug. That's great.
Asking for what we seek and connecting with our voices and our hearts and just putting it out there. And the more that we do that and we ask, be amazed as to how the law of attraction works.
Ooh, what has been your like most wild manifestation since like persistence?
Oh, I would have to say the gathering last summer was pretty epic. I had different artists out there.
Let me just read the lineup real quick for the people. We got Natalie Rize, Conga Curdy, Davin Michael Stedman, Steel Beans, Will the Beast, Dub Collective, like the Mini Mill. And that was just the start. Like, yeah, some epic-ish went down. Like, it was a pretty magical experience, I'd say, just as someone who was there as a participant. You pull up to these, let me paint the scene for the listeners. You're driving deep. Like you've been driving deep for a hot minute, and all of a sudden you turn this corner, it's just forest, and then there's these just mountain clearing, and as you kind of continue down this windy road, you break through, and then all of a sudden it's just all these. Well, first you're greeted by this like vibrant like mosaic of a bus, and you see like persistence across the top. So walking in, I'm like, what is this place? You look around, you see all these tapestries and lights, and then you can just hear the music. And I think that's the one thing too, is it was at that time when there wasn't really any live music going on, and just to feel the energy shift of just being nature and just like really intentional based musicians and creators, like it's a really different energy that I don't think people can experience and know what it's even about unless you've been to like some type of a festival or some type of sacred ceremony. I think there's just like a different elation that comes into I don't know, those types of intentional based gatherings. So just, I know I interjected, but continue the pitch. How was that manifestation? Like what played out that like divine timing is just like, this is real. Yeah, this is real.
Yeah, I would say that in July, there was also a gathering prior to this one, which the reason I bring it up is because after you do one, you want to do another, and then it becomes a little bit bigger. So the one prior to this, there was Arise Roots, Kareem Israel, and Chris Brennan came, and Perfect by Tomorrow. So it's just a few musicians and a few other things. But this time it was like, well, let's see if we can do a little bit more, invite a few more people, have a few more musicians. My friends Natalie and Jared led an amazing breathwork ceremony. They're so instrumental in my life. And yeah, so Natalie Rize, not going to fangirl out or anything, but when I think of female reggae artist, she's phenomenal in what she's doing in the world and the impact that she's making every day, and what she's promoting, and the unity and the community, and just the stuff that Natalie Rize stands for is very empowering for me. In fact, this is how wild manifestation is for me. I was watching Instagram and I saw Natalie Rize talk about the importance of growing your own vegetables and trying to learn more about that. So that was a goal of mine. And eventually my aunt sent me a little seed, and my friend Sally helped me plant these little seeds, and I grew some stuff. In fact, I grew a little basil plant. And the reason I bring that up is I did not imagine in a million years, when I'm watching Natalie Rize on Instagram in a pandemic talking about growing her own vegetables, that I would actually grow something and then eventually be feeding Natalie Rize with that actual plant. That's powerful manifestation. When
literally planting a seed.
Literally. Yes, literally. So I contacted them. Long story how I made that contact, but I contacted them and they made it here, and I was fortunate enough to host them and take care of them. And it was their first time to play in America since the pandemic. It was the first time to have that all-female band, plus, well, they have one male, but like all of those women to play together. They'd not played together here in America before. And I didn't even know that. I didn't know those things until it was all kind of happening. And just everyone's energy to be around that sort of sound healing just raises your vibration, and it's just amazing manifestation to be able to take care of them, to be able to connect with them and talk with them, and know that they want to come back. So it was pretty cool.
That's dope. Well, this whole concept of, seeing something and actually making it happen, that's a different type of mentality. Like, I guess it's almost like that go-getter competitive, mentality. And I guess what has been one of your driving forces behind just kind of like that? You said you were that go-getter, you had plenty of jobs, you would do it all, like, where does that drive stem from?
That's my dad, for sure. My dad was a visionary. My dad definitely helped push me in certain directions to help me be that go-getter kind of person. I would say there was a big influence with my father and how he did things, and how things that he said or talked to me about before, I think was very influential on my life. But also my mom, and how much love and patience and time she's helped me find that space to create, but also you just having that both those masculine and feminine energies to create with love, and then move through the more challenging aspects that require a little bit more of a different energy.
Yeah. Interesting. I
Makes
like that.
sense.
Yeah. The ebb and flow, and you have to have both sides of the blade sharpened to really efficiently cut through the grass, right?
Yeah.
So I like that. And in the sense of where it's led to you and your adventures, we got to talk about it, because I'd be doing the listeners a disservice to say that we have someone who's been on House Hunters coming out of Creative Chat, so we got a cross-show celebrity here for the first time, I think. But I guess I guess the question is, I do my research. So the question is, when you're in Thailand, like what's this experience like just being? I mean, we don't need to dive into the house hunter experience, but more so, how is just this, I guess you would say, this period of time living abroad, how has that kind of like shaped the overall vision that, has brought even more aspect of just kind of like this multifaceted healing avenue that has really
Yeah.
brought to your life with persistence and just your own experiences and your own career?
Yeah. So, yeah, good question. So, yeah, I taught overseas in Thailand for 4 years and Taiwan prior to that for 4 years.
Mm,
And I miss teaching in Washington. I miss teaching overseas, but it doesn't mean that just because you can't do something in a certain way doesn't mean that you can't do it in a different way.
yeah.
And so living overseas and and being in these different places has taught me there's like different ways to do things. So I really wanted and want to be an influence with children, not just here in
Mm,
Washington, but worldwide. But like, how do you do that when I can't get over there or you can't get to that country and these restrictions? So I use my imagination, and my imagination helped me think of this idea where I could reconnect with some students. And so
mm,
I reconnected with my old boss probably about 13 years ago. When I was there, I reconnected with her. I
mm,
said, what do you think about doing some sort of pen pals with the bus?
yeah.
And I know that for people who are listening, it's like, what are you talking about, pen pals on a bus? Because when I try to explain it to people, they're like, well, what do you mean pen pals? I want the bus to also be known worldwide. So my old boss took my bus website, which Rusty made, and the different videos, and the parents of these Taiwanese children and the kids got to watch all about the bus and learn about the bus. And they think it's the coolest thing
I
about my
love
magic
it.
school bus. And my old boss was on board to do pen pals to connect myself and these kids, and then eventually get them pen pals that are closer to their own age. But it's been really cool to talk to these kids about the bus, and they have all these great questions. And for kids that their first language is not English, for them to
Mm,
be able to write letters to someone who's got a magic school bus in the United States and used to live in Taiwan is like a pretty cool thing to do, I think. And it's really cool to be on the receiving end, because the letters that I've gotten from these kids,
mm.
the dream is to read their dreams on the bus, but I got to get to know them a little bit more before I just say, hey, what are your dreams? So my last letter to them, because we've been going back and forth corresponding,
I love it.
um, is about what are your dreams and what
Mm.
do you see happening? And if you could drive like a magic school bus, where would you go? And what would you put inside? And so
I
I'm
love it. That's a
I'm
great
trying to
prompt.
get these kids get a letter, and then they get questions, and then they get to write back. And not only have they done that, I was not feeling really great for a while, and they sent me like a card, a get well card, and a get well
Mm,
video. And I'm also collaborating with her and these students to
mm,
to do a collaboration sticker project. So what that means is they've all now drawn all these pictures to be an image for dinner date collaborate. So they all like drawing. They all sent me these letters with drawings. So I was like, hey,
I
Sophie,
love it.
ask them to draw what they imagine, food and the bus and like
Yeah, their
family.
adventures, like,
Yeah, what do you see in your mind? And I'm going to take that drawing and I'm going to have another
mm,
artist work on it and then give it to my friend Brett, and we'll produce these stickers that we can like give to people. And maybe one day I can get donations for all these special stickers that I've made for every single gathering that she's done. But right now it's
yeah.
a cool collaboration project to promote the bus, to promote artists, to promote kids. And they've all sent me a bunch of drawings. I just looked at them today, quickly before the interview, actually. And full moon manifestations, just like boom, 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 just coming. And I got a letter today that in 4 letters that are sitting in the message box. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question. That was a long-winded answer. But
Definitely. Well, just in terms of your experience teaching abroad, how has that kind of brought you to this place of, I guess you would say, personal knowing, that this is the vibe that you want to be carrying in life, that spreading that, spreading those seeds of knowledge, and seeing them, really flourish with the youth. When did it really trigger for you that, like, I know you mentioned being a wee lady, teaching in front of stuffed animals, but like, when did you know that, like, you not only are meant for it, but like you excel at it?
oh, I think that sometimes that you excel at it kind of when that lifetime kind of wraps up, meaning when I left Taiwan after being there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And you talk to the parents and the letters that you get and all the verbal communication that happens after, when I'm in it, I'm just kind of in it. I'm in the flow. I don't think about anything except just like teaching kids. And then when you step out of it for a second and you receive all the love and the letters, and then and I don't mean letters and then as like the pen pal letters that we're talking about. I'm just saying when I left Asia. And then I think being a part of the United States school system in this specific way, for 6 years, 5 years going out into the school systems and teaching and seeing the impact that it makes, because what I was teaching is not just me teaching, it's interactive workshop where the kids get to stand up and they get to talk and they get to share, and you see right there in front of you the impact that you're making. So that answered the question.
No, it definitely did. And I mean, again, in this sense too, where it's not even like an answering the question in a straight line, because a lot of these things, even just from, in part 1, there's a lot of integrated and multiple faceted solutions, and I guess you would say explorations when it comes to just life. And looking in your own journey of the different modalities, opening up more modalities, how one aspect of the vision board can, is going to blossom into an entire own vision board, I'm sure. This aspect of just enjoying the dance of life and all the wild beauty that it presents you, I guess you could say, is what have been some of the more kind of humbling reminders of that adventure of just enjoy the ride. Like, because when you're traveling abroad, I'm sure there's something that comes up where you're like, I have no idea what's going on, but all right, let's go. Take it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just traveling in different places and just like surrendering to what's happening and then navigating accordingly, right? Navigate that.
Facts. Well, you said an important word in this journey of, I would say, healing in general, is that concept of surrender. And I know that's an incredibly important theme in all experiences, but specifically in plant medicine. And I know in part 1 we talked about, the Kyle Cease family, Jared and Natalie, and all these different people in the spiritual community. How did this plant medicine, spiritual world, healing world all come together in full circle for you?
It's been an exploration of trying things and seeing if they work. When you talk about like my journey and how it circles back with plant medicine, what I can say about that is just always having this curiosity about food and teaching for as long as I can remember, and following that. And due to different health stuff that's gone on with my body over the last few years, I've deepened my relationship with plant medicine and foods. And to me, that's what comes full circle. And I think that by taking the bus on the road and being able to teach kids about lavender and different plant medicines and tools that, that's the mission of the bus.
Well, I guess I'll ask very directly. What plant medicine has been impactful for you in this journey of healing, and why?
Plant medicine helps expand the awareness and tap into maybe areas that I couldn't see before, and helps create the space to dig a little deeper. And by like digging deeper and creating that space, I feel like that allows stuff to come up. And when things come up to the surface, then we can transcend that stuff. Meaning any traumas or anything like that.
And I guess that's something that can sound really enticing to a lot of people, yet also absolutely terrifying. So what would just be your advice on people who maybe are on that journey already or getting ready for like their dieta, or like
I would just say in general, like, plant medicine will call you when you're ready, or it's ready, and also because we're all different, each plant and its ability to help is different for everybody. So what you might not want to do, what might you may not help another person, and vice versa. So my mission is just to open people's awareness about it. Not to suggest this medicine or that or this or that, just to like get them interested or excited about the possibility of plants.
And that's beautiful, because I think that's what really ties together the food angle for me, is my experience in big pharma is seeing that like every drug that these manufacturers are making, oh, it's plant derived, oh, this is plant derived, oh, this is plant derived, oh, it's this chemical, oh, this is something that they patented because it's actually a plant. So you start to see that like the world that is just, we see such mass energy exchange when we think of how much money gets circulated through like pharmaceuticals and all the energies and sufferings that go about even testing things and animal studies and all this other crazy stuff, that we have the ability to technically completely transform our physical experience, which then in turn transforms the emotional and the mental experiences by plants, by food, by just bringing ourselves back to a less processed palate and back to a more natural one. Like, when did the importance of that really click for you, that it's just like, oh shit, like, because I know we talked about a little bit in part one, but like, we as we always go with this, this search, we dig deeper, we uncover more stuff. We've gone a little bit deeper in the sense of the food and the aspect of plant medicine, but like, when was one of those experiences that you knew that like, okay, like Ayurveda, old school like shamanism, like these types of like basic forms of cooking again, like this is it, this is how I have to like do things?
Well, let me just take a breath, because this part of the conversation is like goes a little bit deeper.
And
what I've learned, and one of my tools, is when I start feeling like a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit excited, that I can slow down. There's nothing that's rushing this right now except myself to answer. In answer to your question about food and plant medicine and why is that so important on my journey? Well, being a chef and serving other people and giving them food is not just a creation from me, it's the food itself. And for a while there, I got pretty sick to the point where when I was working, I would go to sample food that I may have cooked for a client, and the food, I couldn't swallow the food and keep the food in without it
Yeah.
coming. Yeah. And so I would just sample it and like just put my tongue in it and then just spit it out in the garbage for sanitary reasons, because I would have to taste food to make sure it tasted right.
Yeah.
But I started developing a negative relationship with food because my body was rejecting food and everything I was putting into it. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter what kind of medical practitioner I went to, or healer I went to, or person I talked to, or take this, take this, take this, take this pharmaceutical or this kind of thing. I tried everything, and I just was like at the end of my rope and just surrendered into, I don't fucking know. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what else to do. And someone mentioned the word Ayurveda to me, and took 15 minutes with me and showed me a few things. And I tried like a couple of things, and it was drastic difference in a very long time that I was trying to feel better. And then once I started understanding Ayurveda a little bit more, it helps me get my relationship back with myself, my inner, and the food that I was putting into my body, and being really mindful and grateful for every single thing that went into my body. Like, oh, wow, this is a bite. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And it's like starting all over again. Sometimes you have to start all over again. And I bring that up because that's how powerful food can be. It can, it can redirect you, and it can balance you. And so, yeah.
And that, I should say, the pivot that food can provide in this angle of your own, unfoldment with it. What has been some of the kind of magical things that you've even seen like food show you and continue to teach you in like these years of healing and kind of persistence, growing and manifesting?
Yeah. I've learned that there's something really powerful about growing your own food and eating your own food, and then sharing that food with other people. That's super powerful.
Different type of satisfaction.
Yeah, different kind of satisfaction. And just being able to go out to the garden and grab some rosemary or oregano or thyme and be able to sprinkle that into anything is just huge. There's so much love, and a lot of times we're just filling ourselves up with, like, I feel like in society, instead of filling ourselves up with love with food, we're filling ourselves up with something that just feels good for that moment. It's not feeling great after. So these kind of foods make you feel good when you're eating them, and it lasts beyond that. So it's elixir, it's a healing elixir. And it's like, if I have a temptation to go somewhere that's a little bit outside of what I would normally cook, and I eat it and I'm excited because I'm like, oh, I haven't had this in a while, to eat it. And then I feel like not good after.
Yeah.
It's that jackpot high, or that jackpot, what Kyle Cease calls about like jackpot love or jackpot high, is like, we go from like one thing to the next thing and try to be excited, but it's just for that moment when these foods like are healing forever, It's just like that moment.
Yeah. Well, that concept of instant gratification and just how society's kind of shifted away in terms of, what we find is palatable. I mean, I'm sure that's definitely plays a role in it. Even looking at just the aspect of brain chemistry that changes with certain foods and just how fatty certain things are made. And I find that that's probably one of the more powerful aspects of any type of fasting or cleanse, or even like a ceremony getting ready, for any type of like plant ceremony or dieta, like, is that restricting the diet, restricting the body to certain flavors or foods resets the palate, which resets the brain, which almost resets the emotions, which resets the mind. And that's when you start to really see like the true impact food has on like the entire experience.
Yeah.
Trippy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, just plant ceremonies, I'm just speaking in general, like it just, it can clear away stuff that helps you know more of who you really are
Mm.
and get closer to that and let go of who you aren't, even though that's a journey forever, because do we ever really know who we are? Do we ever truly know?
I'd say, yeah. When do we let go of what we think we are? And we have to let go of that fully. And that's where things start getting interesting, because it's the willingness. Are we willing to let go of everything we've been taught? Are we willing to let go of everything we know ourselves as? To go beyond like the identity, and to enter into the like, okay, well, see, this is where I start to go with it, where I'm like, okay, well, who am I? Who was I before I was named? Like, what was that beingness like?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about coming back to the childlike play, and I feel like that aspect of surrender and really letting go of all these kind of adults, like certainties or truths or must do's, when those kind of assumptions drop away, the play never left. I think that's always been the trippiest part.
Yeah.
Is that the inner child is always ready to like,
Yeah.
express itself in some way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, for yourself and persistence, I guess that's the question here. Is we talked a little bit about it in part one, but in your own ability to surrender and allow yourself just to play and be yourself, how is that continuing to unfold with these new happenings with persistence?
Oh, well, I'm excited about the hip camp. I'm excited that I can launch something that's real and in flow for me.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that this is the next level of the project. I get excited about it. I get excited to think about who am I going to collaborate with next? Who's going to be the driver of the bus to these next destinations? Who wants to, come with me in different places in Washington? Like, the dream is to have multiple healers on the bus and go to different places, but doesn't mean I have to go outside of Washington to do it. I can still do it locally. And now that schools are changing with schools, there's just even more possibilities with children.
Well, I guess that aspect too of healers on the road, that's its own thing right there, where it's, taking like the love and light shiners and Johnny Seed and Johnny Applejanes of just like love and light, just traveling throughout the country. That's a pretty big aspiration right there. I guess what would be one of the ideal stops to take a traveling group of healers that you would think that would encompass like all of like the festival hospitality, like the adventure of music and community and kids and all the teachings, like what's the next future manifestation, I guess I should pitch it as.
I have multiple ideas, and I think that the dream is to stop at several destinations. So there's not just one destination. There would be multiple ones on the way to a specific destination. So, for example, I have a dream of going to Red Rocks in June, but there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for that to play out. So we'll see. But the dream is to be able to take her to a music festival where she could make several stops on the way there. And those stops could be anything. It could be a family that might want a chef for the night, for an evening. It might be a children's birthday party or a children's party where they want a cooking class, and there's several of us that go do that. Or maybe there is manifestation workshops, or there are sound healers on the bus, and I take them with me too. And so there's basically taking different healers, understanding what their offerings are, and coming up with like a collaborative plan as to where we could go, what we might do as I get closer to that dream.
Yeah, so, almost like a little persistent spread the love tour. Like your own little music tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
She you can call her Percy for short if you get tired of saying persistence.
You gotta just ingrain it into the listener's brain just enough so they can't forget it. So subconsciously it's just there all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could use Percy. I think it's the seed's been planted at this point.
Yeah. Did we talk about how she got her name and like where her name came from, and did I give her name and all that?
No, when did the christening, when did the original name conception come into play?
I didn't come up with her name. Her name was actually already there when I got her. So the lady that the lady I bought her from, I asked her, where did the name Persistence come from? And she goes, oh, she's just like, I don't name things. My husband named it. It's the second conversion. It's Persistence. And I was like, okay, cool. And so once I got her home, I came up with like, not home. I think it took a little bit, but I came up with what each letter stands for. So the P stands for something, the E stands for something, R stands for something, and you can find all that on magicbusdreams.com to know like what she stands for. Multiple things. So yes, she is persistence, and she's the persistence to go inward and to never give up. That's what she at their root stands for me.
And I find that's great too, because it's probably like the best word that encompasses the journey. And arguably the greatest misconception of spiritual work or healing work is that it somehow ends, and the inner looking somehow reaches a point where it's like, nah, you have that persistence because it keeps on unfolding.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could say that's the best energy to kind of carry in a project like this too, because it's a schoolie. It's always going to be growing. It's always, and the mission of, the healing and the different aspects of what's going to open up. And I mean, who even knows how different technologies are going to incorporate sound healing and all the different aspects of community. And I just think there's so much potential that there's not enough time in a day to really explore how many avenues you could just dive into with persistence.
Yeah.
You gotta narrow that down.
Yeah. Well, let's see. April and May, dinner date, collaborate. You can book her on Hip Camp. That's April, May, and then we'll see what happens in June. But yeah, lots of big dreams for her.
Well, and for yourself too, this aspect of, where's Alison going? Where's your own, brand of self? How's that kind of flourishing and developing?
Oh, well, AlisonAdair.com is always flourishing and developing. I'm taking the time to utilize my different skills and experience and education with being a chef, with being a teacher, an educator, a volunteer, a booking agent, a festival thrower, a connector, conscious connector, and a traveler, an adventurer, and just taking all these things and throwing it into one big basket with persistence feels really yummy and good and juicy. And it's my way to give back, but it's also my way to create flow that is helping myself and helping the planet at the same time. So.
And you said something earlier in that same aspect of flow, just kind of like sparked it back. It's, you know, you have to be able to feel, and I guess you would say you phrase it as feel and in the flow of things for you. You know, you have to be able to feel it out for yourself. You have to be able to listen to that kind of strongest, I guess you'd say impulse or yearning or like whatever the heart wants.
Yeah.
How does one come to really cultivate that trust in listening to yourself? Because I feel that's one of the biggest things a lot of people, I know myself personally, I don't encounter is, you know, when you live a life of just making so many mistakes, how do you learn to trust yourself to make the right?
I don't know if there's any mistakes, but just look at it as like a learning opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
And I think everything happens because it's supposed to happen. And that comes down to, for me, a couple of things. Listening to silence for a while, like listen to silence and let whatever's coming through come through. Making the time to do that every morning. And beyond that, trusting the knowing is also just trusting myself when no one else is looking. Meaning, if I tell myself in the morning, okay, I'm going to go do this thing that's bettering myself, like, okay, I'm going to go do X amount of stretches or drink this much water or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The more I listen and follow through with those things, then the more I can trust the inner and I trust myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's it's really holding space for yourself just to experience the opportunity to try it. And that aspect of not holding yourself back based in the fear or some type of tension is huge, because I guess most people, they quit before any journey has really begun because they just refuse to actually take those action steps.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to be a visionary, but it's another to follow through with the steps and see the vision all the way through. No matter if it's like a small thing or a big thing.
Well, I guess that's the
commitment to yourself.
No, I totally get it. And I guess it comes back to the essence of, even in your own journey and your own drive, is how have you cultivated that? You know, how have you cultivated that willingness to continue to put yourself out there despite life, you know, always presenting us with this
trial and error. Trial and error. Like, oh shit, I should have done that yesterday. Like, should have listened to myself, should have listened to my higher self. And just like, I wouldn't say like consequences or repercussions, but just like, you know, looking at what happens after making decisions and going, okay, how does that feel? How do I?
I get it. And not letting people, and I guess you would say is not letting yourself really just be your own worst enemy and not beat yourself up over it.
Just keep going. And that's the persistence is, it's definitely blood, sweat, tears, that bus, on so many levels. And, you know, I have things every day that come up with the bus that I feel like almost defeated sometimes, like, oh, I can't believe that just happened. And I feel frustrated. And I allow myself to feel that way, and then understand that everything is happening for me and not to me. And it's all in flow through divine timing. But it is a practice. It's not, I have to remember that in the moment when I'm like, and so that is, that's something that the bus has really taught me, to have patience. That's her middle name.
Persistence, patience,
Adair.
I love it. I love it. The funny thing about these types of, I guess you could say, journeys of life is they reveal more of what we are and who we are as it continues to unfold. So much so that I don't think the people that embark on the journey could even really fully relate with who we are in the present moment of it. If I were really to look at, Peter before he started his own little wellness and fitness development business, how his mindset is in the world and how he is, compared to current Pete, light years of development and completely different person. And I think that's one of the things that's always fascinating about these types of, aspirations of the heart, is that when we really commit ourselves to them, like, it just brings us in this path of fulfillment, satisfaction, unfoldment, realization, healing, transformation that, like, we could never even have conceived of before we even started. So even in your own looking now, like trying to look at the kind of chain of growth, or or like, as you'd say, in terms of looking at the path of growth and progression, how have you yourself really just transformed into like a new person through this journey? And how have you handled that change? That's
Transformation is eternal, and the last few years has allowed me to slow down and take the time I needed to heal. But how have I changed, and how have I expanded?
If it could be put into words, even,
Yeah, I just, I'm still working on stuff every day, but letting go of the control. Like, I have choice, but if something doesn't go a certain way, instead of trying to like control that, I just, okay, it just is what it is. And just like surrendering a little bit more. But it's definitely something that I'm working on every day, with control and surrender. It's a fun dance. I would say the last couple of years, just the shadow work, and meaning like seeing things about myself that I didn't know before, seeing things that I want to shift or change, has been what I've been really looking at the last 2 years. And if I don't care for something about myself, then it's something that I make a decision to make a change about, and I write it down, and I make the intent to work on it. And I would just say the last few years, that the growth spurt, my mom was even saying, it's just like, whoa, so much.
That's funny. I guess, well, I shouldn't even say I guess, because I know with this one, my past self would have slapped me in the face. He would have thought it was so silly if I would have talked to him about divine timing and just simply surrendering and trusting the universe. Like, past you would have been like, what are you smoking? Like, and why? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? Because it really is a different type of faith, of just letting go, to allow even the shit that pops off that seems like absolute the opposite of what we want to go down, to just give it the space to play out and not judge it or get attached to the letdown. Like, that's a different type of trust and even just discipline, to not go down those paths of the emotions, or at least act on them, of the emotions, and like the initial like I guess you'd say like mental or egoic response. So you mentioned it a few times, this aspect of sitting in stillness. Like, how has meditation and your own practices of kind of self-awareness and healing brought you to some of these kind of greater points of realization?
Yeah, stillness is a new thing for me the last 2 years. Coming from someone who never sat down, like go from like 6 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, just sitting and being still and listening wasn't something that I did. Really don't know when I ever allowed myself to just listen. Yeah, just be like, there's be there and like listen to all the thoughts and like, I gotta do this, or just like put myself in the receptivity stage or state to listen. There's a difference between just like sitting here and like, oh, I gotta do this thing, or just like
Oh yeah.
being open. And the meditation and the listening, creative stuff just starts coming through when I'm in that state. And it helps me understand more. It helps me navigate more. It helps me, like in the morning when I'm listening to silence for an hour every morning, things come over me and I cry some stuff out and I feel lighter and I feel better. And I don't have to know why that. I don't have to look at it and understand it. I can just know that whatever I just released helps me show up better in the world.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to, is me meditating in the world is going to help me show up better in the world. So I'm not, when I feel triggered, I'm trying to practice neutral mind. Trying is the key word here. And the triggers are what actually help us develop and grow and expand, because if we're triggered, then there's like, look underneath that. So
Exactly.
before I just get angry and be like, this, but I'm learning, and I'm still in the process of learning that, oh, why do I feel triggered? Why does that feel uncomfortable? And just like I said earlier, is getting okay with feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's that realm of spirituality that can sound so cliche, where it's like, you gotta to get comfortable, you gotta be uncomfortable, to still the mind, you just gotta allow it to be. And it's, and a lot of people don't understand that it's always that aspect of your true position in it. And, when you have so much of an identity, like a bodily identification, everything feels so intimate. And the thing that always kind of really just piques my ear is that angle of allowing yourself to hold space for the experience to unfold, because that's where you start to tap into, like, I would almost say one of the greater misconceptions we have of our relationship with the mind, is that it's always kind of like that hurt child trying to express itself, right? And all the time when we're in these practices of stillness or sitting in meditation, we try to just suppress that shit. We're like, no, you go away. I don't want to deal with you right now. But it's like, I just want out. I'm just trying to get out. Just let me go, And when you finally do it, I think that was probably one of the trippiest experiences, is when I really got to that shift of just like allowing the mind just to drop and just in that receptive state, as you were saying, just to know that I was like, okay, so my intention was just to sit here and be, and just to be in the silence and just be one with the stillness. And I'm still seeing all this stuff come across my awareness. I was just like, why is it happening? And then I was just like, that inner knowing, that kind of like that silent voice was just like, just let it play out. So I was like, okay, so I kicked back, and it was a similar experience. You just find yourself hanging out one time, then all of a sudden you're just crying, and you're just like, I used to jump to the judgment of like, what's happening? Why is this happening? But, there was different instances of even feeling like nauseous, where it's like when you actually hold space for yourself, like the body releases trauma, it releases pain, it releases experiences of the past. And then certain thought patterns, at least how I experience it, just never come back.
Yeah.
Certain emotional triggers are just gone, and you're just like, then you're almost fishing for something like, wait, where'd that go? Like,
right.
Yeah,
I want
it's
to
trippy.
touch that landmine. Oh, wait, it's gone. Yeah, totally.
Or even worse, like you're just used to the whole field being just like covered in eggshells. You don't want to make a sound. You're just like, wait, they're all gone, and I'm still tiptoeing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's something that's really, I would say powerful, is just to be able to bring that type of deep healing and awareness to, the works that you're integrating your own beingness into. I think that's like super promising and cool to hear. So yeah, keep up the awesome work. It's super cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, at this point, I guess in terms of your own, I guess you would say, yearnings for community, that's one of the notes that we really haven't gotten a chance to touch up on too much, was this kind of collaborative group that you're kind of gathering, your network. I think that's one of the things that I know about you, is like you literally have like bridges and connections to a bunch of different networks from all over. So how has your even journey and mission of community changed just through the more people you've gotten to know and connect with?
The bus has brought not just the community that I know, but expanded and dominoed and ripple effect between different communities. So if I had a gathering and there was like a couple of different communities, and then it seems like it just keeps expanding, because you have one person you haven't met, and then they're connected to a community, and you've not met this person and they're connected to that community. And so there's just so much, I would just say it's such a crossover. I'm helping connect the different communities to the other communities.
Yeah.
Through the bus.
And it's still growing and unfolding and expanding. And what would be one of the future kind of aspirations you hope for these communities?
I hope to collaborate with more heart-centered people on different properties for different reasons. I hope to learn more as I'm taking the bus to these different places and expanding my growth. So it's not just about me teaching and me doing workshops and bringing healers with me. It's the adventure part of it, and it's also the learning and the growth that's going to come out of it. So there's various communities in different states and different cities that I'm in contact with to try and promote crossover community collaborations. One of them being my friend Amanda at artvangrow.com. Going to go meet with her this weekend. There's other communities out there that I'm excited to connect with and see what can transpire and happen through the bus. So, for example, my friend Amanda is very near a school on her property. So I imagine taking her and maybe myself and a few other people over to this school and doing some sort of workshop. But because she's also promoting community through her property, there's this aspect of me helping her connect and her helping me connect, and just doing stuff there, doing stuff here, doing stuff at different places.
I love it. And that to me is the biggest potential here, is with persistence, the future is literally as dope as you want to make it. You know, there's so many different opportunities from the different communities and people. There literally is an infinite amount of exploration and adventure you can just partake upon. You know, and I think the cool thing about having the different properties in different areas is that work can always continue to grow and flourish. There's no like pauses with a winter season. There's, you know, it brings it back to that 24/7 like love, spread, and light mission.
Yeah.
So that's dope. That's super dope.
It's super dope. Yes. And then that means that traveling seasonally.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually, like, the dream is to have a fleet of different conversion vehicles with different people, so we can use them in the way that makes the most sense. Because you're not going to take the bus everywhere all the time, because like it guzzles gas. Maybe there's a different van conversion that goes on the road to do certain things, and ambulance conversion, and just different conversions. Fleet of them.
That's sick.
Mental health fleet of healers and conversion vehicles.
A healing convoy.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, I gotta say, Alison, thank you so much for coming on Creatives Chat. It's been a blast. There's been so much magic revealed just through your own journey and that of persistence. And I gotta give you the closing remarks one more time. You know, is there anything you'd like to give our listeners?
Join me on the magical carpet ride of persistence. Check out our website. Check out what I'm doing on Hip Camp. Follow us on our journey. reach out to me if you have some dream that I can collaborate with. I'm always looking for other people to collaborate with. I think that's where I would leave it is, my website that Rusty did is synergistic, and it's about the bus, but it's not just about the bus. It's about all the people that have helped on the property and with the bus. So if you go to the bus website and you go to the community page, you can see all the different people. There's still way more people I want to add, but I'm trying to not just promote the bus, but what these other people are offering in life and how they've helped me in my journey. And so if I can promote them and what they're doing, it's just, this feels good,
Yeah. It's, as you said, the synergistic aspect. It's the it's, what was the name of the exercise you did with Kyle Cease's group?
Oh, it's totally possible.
Oh, okay. So it's just that. It's like it's totally possible. You're filling each other's up. You're filling each other up for their dreams. You're lifting each other up so we can all succeed. And that's the persistence way, where it's like, keep going, get the momentum, get more people. And it's just that snowball just keeps rolling downhill.
Yes.
I love it. Oh, with that, thank you, listeners, for tapping in. Don't forget, share, subscribe, check out AlisonAdair.com, magicbusdreams.com, and roll the outro.
Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Level up your life and raise your vibration with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks. Get your vibrational sound tools for your personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching our show. Click the bell button to get notified of future episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We were talking about learning to trust yourself, and that comes down to listen to silence and let whatever's coming through come through.